Okay, everyone, let's do it. Let's talk about sex change operations on minors. Or, if we want to use a less inflammatory and more proper term, let's talk about gender affirming care for minors. So, before we even get started, I wanted to talk to you about why I get to talk about this subject. So, first and foremost, I have worked to educate myself. I have looked up and researched the scientific, medical, and psychological information and data there is on transgender care for youth. What I have not done is, to the best of my ability, inserted my own biases into information and into my belief system. The second reason I get to speak about this is that I have two tween kids. I have an 11-year-old and I have a 12-year-old. One of those kids, I would have faith in them if they said they were questioning their gender and they wanted to start exploring some gender affirming care. The other one, well, I still hold his hand in the parking lot. So I'm coming from a unique perspective as someone who actually has tween children and am very well aware that one child is not like the next child, which is why these discussions and these decisions need to be made by families and medical professionals and psychological professionals and not by any outside entity. So let's talk about what's being pushed in the media and politically right now about concerning minors and gender affirming care. So, what the media would have everyone believe is that anyone that's woke is pushing gender affirming care on minors, which is just not the case. They'll also have you believe that what gender affirming care means is sex change operation, because that's a scary term and they're trying to scare people. But here's the truth of the matter, everyone. Very, very few trans kids have surgery. In fact, speaking for myself as a trans person, I don't necessarily even advocate for young kids even looking into the idea of having surgery. And the truth of the matter is, hardly anybody does. Adults are in fact aware that children have growing brains. And adults are in fact aware that children are highly impressionable, which is why in almost every single case, gender affirming care actually means support. Support from a child's parents to give them the freedom to dress in a way that affirms their gender, or to change their hair to a style that affirms their gender. A step further than that is talking to the child's pediatrician about what's going on and getting recommendations for therapists or psychologists. Not because there's anything wrong with the child, but to help the family navigate the situation and to also help the child vet out their own feelings surrounding gender affirming care and transition. And the truth of the matter is, when it comes to surgeries related to transgender care, surgeries can be thought of as the very last step that anyone takes in transition. And I don't have a statistic for this, but I would guess there's probably half of trans people that never even have surgery. They don't feel the need to have surgery. And so the fact that mainstream media and those in the political arena are trying to frame gender affirming care as surgery is just ridiculous. Here is a statistic I do know is true. Most gender affirming surgery that does happen in the United States is not even for trans people. It's not trans people getting the surgeries. You want to know who it is? It's cis boys. So cisgender boys who have an issue called gynecomastia, and I might be pronouncing that wrong. I've only ever read it. I've never heard it. Where essentially you grow too much breast tissue. So when they hit puberty, they start growing breasts. Most gender affirming care in the United States is for cisgender boys to have that breast tissue removed. But that's not something the media is telling you, because the media wants to target and villainize a small group of people. And their tactics are they really work. And here's why. Evil people are smart too. They are. And they know that one of the core traits of humanity is just this wired in desire to protect our young. Like, we understand protecting children, and not just our children. Nothing brings a community together quicker than a child in danger or getting hurt. It's how we are literally made. And so what the media and the political arena is doing is they're taking that psychological fact and using it to pretend like the transgender community and anyone who's woke is hurting kids. And they're using that to try to create political capital to push forward their own agendas. And so they're targeting this really small group of people who are not doing anything wrong. And this isn't to say that, it's not to say that some people, take all the steps and they transition and then they regret their decision. What we do know for a fact is that gender is a spectrum. Some people feel very male, some people feel very female, some people are somewhere in between, some people have no idea. They identify with, no idea is not the right term, some people identify with both sides. So since gender is a spectrum and people are continually growing and changing, we're very dynamic, of course some people will transition and wish they hadn't. Of course. But, people have regrets for all sorts of things in their lives. I have regrets for decisions I've made. To try to assert that trans people don't get to make a decision unless they 1,000,000% know it's the right one is ridiculous, because that's not how humanity works. So here's what I'm hoping everyone will take away from this video. We are living in just a horrific time. We're in the information age, but we are not yet mature enough to use information in a truthful and honest way. And on top of that, a lot of us have a really hateful nature, and that makes it even worse. We are biased and we want to push forth our own agendas no matter who gets trampled. Okay, so those of us who are kind, compassionate, empathetic, and are seeking to grow, we have to be really careful, because it is hard to get good information. I work so hard myself to get good information. I study, I research, I look for unbiased sources, I read things on both sides to try to get a well-rounded view, and still, sometimes, hook, line, and sinker, I get facts that are not in fact facts, and I have to correct. Okay, we all have to do that. So, for anyone watching this video, please vet out the information that you're hearing from the media and that's getting pushed down from the political arena, particularly in the United States right now. Because make no mistake, the current administration wants to eradicate trans people. They don't want them to exist. And so they're villainizing trans people, all under the pretense of protecting children. Not unlike they're going after, also like they're going after women under the pretense of protecting women. It's a trick. They're tricking you. You've got to be smarter than them. You've got to see through it. You've got to not bite on the misinformation and the straight up disinformation. Please, do your research. Lead with kindness and empathy.